Super Startup.
It's Sriram, Sullia on Fever 104 FM. Another exciting day on Super Startup where we get to know Super Startup, what it's taken to run this unique company and their journey so far. We'll talk about every single aspect of it on this episode of Super Startup. And today we have a company that's got to do with real estate. Real estate seems to be a scary space. Is it a scary space? These guys are here to make life easier when it comes to the real estate space. We all need that certificate of authentication that can tell us whether this project is a good one and why exactly is a sound one. Why exactly should this be a project that you should invest in? They will give you their seal of approval. We have with us co-founders of HomeInspeKtor, Vivek and Sudhi Nayab. Thank you so very much for your time and stopping by the studios of Fever 104 FM. Great to have you guys with us.
Thanks a lot. Our pleasure to be here.
Let's get to know about HomeInspeKtor. What exactly is HomeInspeKtor all about? You are a third party that approves on the quality of a real estate project.
HomeInspeKtor basically is a company that does pre-delivery inspections of homes. Let's assume you're a home buyer and you've invested in a dream home where while the name of the builder is great, but you're not very sure about the finishing or the quality of a particular house. So we don't certify a project, we certify a home as to the quality of the home. And this, we just don't do that by a visual way, but we do it by using tools, technology, and most importantly, trained people. Yeah.
Right.
So we use a combination of these things to make sure that the dream home that you've invested in is free from issues.
So you basically bring in a whole lot of relief to a lot of home buyers who could be skeptical about whether this is the project that I've invested in or not. And you come into the picture right when the project is under construction or even after it's completed.
So we come into the picture exactly when the builder says that the home is ready for possession. So when the builder invites you to take possession of the house, that's when you give us a call. We come and do the whole inspection on your behalf. And that's when we give you a 360-degree view of the house, of the quality of the house. It's a 100-page report that reflects the actual quality with the different issues that exist in the house.
Let's talk a little bit about a scope for HomeInspeKtor.
Sure.
A real estate developer talks about the amount of amenities, talks about the room and the balcony and what's surrounding a project.
Correct.
But when they say a quality of a project comes into the picture, just their brand name seems to speak a whole lot, or at least that's how the market is assumed to be. What is the scope for someone like a HomeInspeKtor to come in and give a seal of approval on the project and the houses?
Absolutely. So I think the first and the foremost is we as Indians, right? When we settle in our career, home is one of the big ticket item that we invest. And more often than not, we rely on the brand. HomeInspeKtor as such has nothing against the builders. We would want to certify, if somebody has done a good job, we would want to give that independent view. More often than not, because real estate is an unstructured and unregulated industry, you have no pattern to define which house is free of issues. And that's where we come in, where we are like a diagnostic lab for every house. We help customers to understand the quality of construction from a finishing standpoint. I think that's very essential to know. Because a lot of times we get calls saying that I have invested in this brand, but I don't even know this brand. Right? Is the structure safe? Inspection is not about that.
Yeah.
India is not dealing with that. Let's be clear, right? Wherever, I think just about a week back we heard it in Pulkeshi Nagar, right? Those are technical flaws which will give up much before it's ready for handover. The kind of issues that we are dealing with is you move in, you settle, because in your mind the tick mark is done.
Yeah.
I've moved into my dream house. Now all the 24 hours that I have for personal and professional matters, right? But then within 3 months you will see damp spots on the walls, which is not a good sign for you. And importantly, to know where it's coming from. Electrical safeties. Today kids are so naughty and you have sockets more closer to the ground. How do I have an assurance that the house is safe? That is what we call. We have more than about 100 plus checks, which are broad level to identify the issues that are associated in the house. If not, the idea is for us to give an insight of the house, right? So a lot of times people say that, I want to get an inspection done. What if the builder is not allowed? The inspection is for you. even if the builder is not addressing it, you at least know the inside of the house before you settle in, right? Real estate investment is never bad.
Yeah.
Right. Now that the RERA is coming in, you pay anyway for the area. But what is essential is do I know the house that I am living in? And that's the certificate, or that's the trust factor that we want to leave as trusted advisors to. So you always are looking at an opportunity to close your sale. Even any iota of opening would give you a sense of threat.
Yeah.
So you would always want to, because interior is all about, you have an army of 30, 40 people, send a couple of people with pen and paper and say, I'll manage. For an interior guy, when you are spending about 80 lakhs or a crore, you end up spending about 8 to 10% on the interior, which is about 8 to 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
For him to cover up this cost is much, much easier. Importance is not to open up so that his business is at threat.
Correct.
That is where we are educating the customer. We also know the world that we live in is collaboration is the way to go. Allow the competent party to do. Right? It's just about application of those thoughts that are in the mind, right? But then there are, competition. There are interior guys who come across. There are people who are in the construction business who offer as an extended service, right? But then the independence is always questionable, right? But we leave it to the judgment of the customers. Finally, they have to do a decision.
We'll definitely send a 70-80 page report to follow up. But, nothing beats it better than looking at the issues when you're there, right? It gives them a sense of, okay, these are the issues. And that's how it happens. Once our team leaves the site, we take about 48 hours to 72 hours on an average to process the data that we've collected on the app. And it helps because it's an app. Everything's on the cloud and stuff like that. Within 72 hours, he gets a PDF. He gets the report. And then we work with him so that he understands the report. And the report is detailed. It's, 70 pages of issues, right? It's got a lot of pictures, a lot of annotations that draw attention to where the picture is, or where the issue is and things like that. So once he's convinced, yes, I understand the report, everything is fine, then we encourage him to speak to the builder.
Yeah.
Share the issues part of it. Also, let me also clarify that the issues that we find are not theoretical issues. They are practical issues, that they are issues that can be fixed.
Right.
And they can be fixed at that stage because the builder is still handing over houses. So he has the people and the material on the project site. So if it's a hollow tile, it needs to be replaced. He already has the stock. Imagine replacing a hollow tile in 6 months.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare once you move in. HomeInspeKtor also has the privilege of being partnered with InterNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. That's the world's largest trade association for property inspectors based in United States. And HomeInspeKtor is involved in setting up the India chapter. How about that? More conversations coming right up with Vivek and Sudhi. Sunte rahiye Fever 104 FM. On the Superhero Show with Sriram Sullia, this is Super Startup. We have an incredible startup that we are talking about. They started out in May 2016. They've been running successfully as a third-party service provider, helping customers to know the quality of construction from a finishing standpoint. These guys are the liaison that will tell a customer whether his hard-earned money has been invested in the right place. And finally, what's the end product that you've received?
Super Startup.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the acceptance of the flaws on the builder's part. Most of the time, a builder may defend their product and may say that we have our own third party that's going to do an inspection as well. And it could be an ongoing discussion that will never see an end. How exactly can someone go about it? You give them a report of these are the flaws that needs rectification. Now, the consumer needs to take this up with the builder. What are the odds that it will be addressed?
So that's a very good question. I'll put my thoughts and Vivek can add to them. You'll be surprised, and I was surprised in the beginning. Most builders are actually welcoming such third-party inspections commissioned by the home buyers. Yeah? Because it kind of gives them a clear to-do list of issues that are there, and they know that the customer has commissioned this. If I fix these issues, then the customer satisfaction goes up.
True.
And in real estate, that's very important because you refer others and all that, right? I would say 85 to 90% of the projects builders are welcoming to it, but there are some honorable exceptions where people have said, sorry, this project has been delayed for already 6 years now, and this is going to add more time. As a builder, I'm not going to allow third-party inspection.
Vivek?
Surprisingly, over the last 3 years of journey, right, we have not had a single case where a builder has challenged saying that I do not accept this issue. So that in itself proves that the kind of, and that's where we are relying, there should not be subjectivity. Right. Once you have tools used, if I say there is a dampness on the wall, it's not just what I am saying. The tool is reflecting that there is moisture content. Right. I see a faulty socket, the meter, the tool that we use talks about it. Unfortunately, because it's a unskilled labor class, the kind of tools and equipment that has not made its entry into the real estate yet, right? And for a builder also, especially when we talk to the site people, right? See, I think when I look back my own journey, right, we rely so much on Google that, I go to office, I check what are the general things to do. I go to the site. Out of some 10 odd that I Googled, there are 4 things. I tell the site guy, okay, these are the 4 things. Monday morning, I'm back at office. We talk about it. Somebody gives me 2 more points, which I don't even know. I again go back to the site and I find. So for a site guy, it's like a bottomless bucket.
Yeah.
Right. But now with HomeInspeKtor, you have a very professional approach.
I think if a real estate developer who has a fair bit of credibility and wants to maintain that in the market, shouldn't shy away from a third-party inspection, especially from HomeInspeKtor or if any other player. It only adds to their credibility and should be openly willing to go ahead with an inspection. Having said that, you think it's a good idea to get you guys on board even before investing in a project?
So it works most often when people are buying ready to move in. But in the context of during construction, because the quality that we check is from a finishing standpoint, till the flat is ready, it will end up like we do have done, but very small percentage, because people should be willing to pay 3 or 4 times depending on what they want to check. Right. That is where when we look at, I think that opens up the topic that in today, most of our inspections are B2C, where we are doing to the end consumers directly. But our intent when you have to work with the builders is the same way. In fact, we just started our operations in Chennai, where we are working with one of the leading developer. The whole thought process is like that, where with the builder, they would have finished their flooring of all the apartments. Do that and then get the validation done, because they also have to clear the bills for the subcontractors.
Right.
The quality of work there. So we do need to do some tweaking based on how the addressable market is. But from a consumer perspective, because awareness is not there and we don't want to pay obvious, so we would definitely not want to pay twice or thrice. So because of that, it comes into a situation where it's ready for handover, where all the aspects are done. So we are able to give them a 360-degree view of the house.
In the beginning. Right? So that was one question that I had. So that kind of started giving us thoughts about what can we do to prevent such occurrences across apartments in Bangalore. Ironically, at the same time, we were working on a real estate project from a US company, a US customer, and we realized that we were building a real estate portal for them. And one of the stakeholders in that whole transaction in the US happened to be somebody called a HomeInspeKtor. Then we realized that we don't have, we have the banker, we have the broker, we have the end customer, but we don't have a HomeInspeKtor in India. So if you just draw the parallel to the Indian context, and then digging deeper, we realized that there is a person whose job is to inspect houses, especially when it changes hands, right? So it's like, putting 2 and 2 together, we realized that yes, there is there is a best practice across, in the Western world, which needs to be applied in the Indian context, and it would really make a difference to people like us and, everybody who's kind of buying a house. The difference being in the US, it is predominantly for resale houses. And that's what we thought, maybe we should just apply home inspections to resale situations. But then we realized that when you buy a new house itself, that's when, because we have apartments as well, very pervasive here, then we realized applying home inspections to new or primary sales adds a lot of value to the
I think a lot has to do with the trust factor with the builder that gets lost when your project is getting delayed day by day. And then you start to wonder, wait a second, if they're not delivering this project on time, what other things that they have told is not true? And that's when HomeInspeKtor comes to be. It's a very, very interesting profile, and it's amazing what you guys do. I'm sure you guys have set right plenty of homes, and there are lots of happy families thanks to you guys. Would you want to take us through a few projects that you found really, really interesting over the last 3 years, right from 2016 to now? There are so many consumers that you have dealt with, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I think when you look back 3 years of journey, close to about 2,500 plus inspections.
Wow.
Covering about 130 projects in Bangalore. So recently we started in Chennai. So it gives us a sense of satisfaction, right? When you look at the consumers, of course, we also play a part in terms of it should not be such a letdown on the builder side, right? Because it's all about trying to balance the expectations. And unfortunately, real estate is going through a transformation phase now that the RERA is in, right? Because when we talk to the customers, a lot of times they are intrigued that, oh, maybe these are the points that I should have checked when I signed up.
Yeah.
But then at that point in time, it's all about signing up.
Welcome back to Super Startup on Fever 104 FM. My name is Sriram, Sullia. We have the co-founders of HomeInspKtor, Sudhi and Vivek. But what is HomeInspKtor really? It's an independent third-party service provider helping customers to know the quality of construction from a finishing standpoint. You have a ready-to-move-in house. These guys will come in with their qualified civil engineers, make sure everything is in order. Has the builder lived up to his promise? Leave it to these guys.
Super Startup.
Let's talk a little bit about the price points here, shall we? You said that you initially looked at coming up with a B2B solution so that real estate developers could have your seal of approval. But with time and demand, you have gone on to become a B2C player. Let's say 2 BHK house needs to be inspected. What would be the price point? How much is it going to set me back?
Sure.
And will you do a diagnostic of the complete project or just my 2 BHK?
Like in other things in real estate, there is the pricing is definitely dependent on the size. So it's not just an average 2 BHK, let's say about 1,000 square feet would cost you about 10,000 rupees. Yeah. So the thumb rule is about 10 rupees a square feet.
Okay.
But what we also do is we make sure that there are volume discounts and, preferential prices for certain projects depending on how many people come to us and things like that.
What about the concentration on the overall project? Do you also take a look at, in case there are any deviations from what's been promised to what the consumer is getting? Let's say it could be a clubhouse.
Because the gambit of home inspections is for the home, so it is not a project level check. We only check the home, but within the home we always ask for the specifications of the home, saying okay, what Jaguar fittings, etc., where will be your, we ask for the blueprint, how the circuit diagram of the house is, etc., and then we kind of do the inspection according to that, and if there are any deviations we call it out.
Over these years, have you noticed a certain pattern when it comes to problems associated with a few builders? I'm sure you do. And would you want to reveal this? Let's say I get in touch with you saying this is my apartment, and you take a look at the brand name and you may wonder, I think I know what the problem is. Has that happened?
That's actually an advantage because our home inspectors have been working only on home inspections for the last 3 years and they have no other deviations or distractions. So obviously there is knowledge. I have done so many prestige homes, I have done so many SJR homes, and I have done so many projects, and definitely there are patterns.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about home inspection is the justification of a home inspection is because every home is different.
Yeah.
While you might have preconceptions about a particular project or a builder, you know that you cannot really extrapolate anything. Unless you look at that house, you cannot make up your mind about it. That's where we come with an open mind about saying, okay, we know how it is typically, but let's go there and check. And that's when you get the true picture about the house.
Are there other players involved as well? I'm not really aware, but there must be competition in a market, especially in a city like Bangalore, where there's a real estate project coming up in every single corner.
There are competitors, and the importance is to map it 1:1. Right? I think the beauty of India is anything new, people would want to jump into it. We have come across projects where interior people come across as competition. Because the business which is not structured, so you always are looking at an opportunity to close your sale. Even any iota of opening would give you a sense of threat.
Yeah.
So you would always want to, because interior is all about, you have a army of 30, 40 people, send a couple of people with pen and paper and say, I'll manage. For an interior guy, when you are spending about 80 lakhs or a crore, you end up spending about 8 to 10% on the interior, which is about 8 to 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
For him to cover up this cost is much, much easier. Importance is not to open up so that his business is a threat.
Correct.
That is where we are educating the customer. We also know the world that we live in is collaboration is the way to go. Allow the competent party to do. Right? It's just about application of those thoughts that are in the mind, right? But then there are, competition. There are interior guys who come across. There are people who are in the construction business who offer as an extended service, right? But then the independence is always questionable, right? But we leave it to the judgment of the customers. Finally, they have to do a decision.
Home Inspector.